Today, we're going to dive into something pretty fascinating, the story behind the names of one of the world's oldest civilizations. And yep, you heard that right, I said names, plural. So you've probably heard them all, India, Bharat, Hindustan, but have you ever stopped to wonder why one country has so many names? It's a real puzzle, one that sends us on a journey thousands of years back in time. So what's the story? Let's dig in and find out. All right, to get to the bottom of this, we're going to have to put on our historical detective hats. Our clues? Well, they're hidden in some of the most ancient texts ever written and in the stories told by travelers who journeyed to this land from all over the world. So first, let's get our bearings. We're talking about the Indian subcontinent. Just picture it, a huge piece of land, naturally walled off by the incredible Himalayas in the north and surrounded by the sea on three other sides. And trust me, this geography, it's absolutely crucial to our story. Okay, so our investigation kicks off with our very first clue, the Rig Veda. This is an incredibly ancient collection of Sanskrit hymns, one of the oldest religious texts in the world, actually. Now, it doesn't mention the entire subcontinent, but what it does give us is the very first recorded name for a part of it. The Rig Veda zooms in on the northwest, a land that's literally defined by its rivers. And, no surprise, that's exactly where this first name originates. And that name is Sapta Sinhava. In Sanskrit, this translates to something pretty straightforward, the land of the seven rivers. See? It's a name that comes right out of the geography itself. Super descriptive.
Now that word Sindhava, it comes from Sindhu, which was the ancient name for the massive Indus River. And you're going to want to file that name away, Sindhu. It's going to pop up again and be a huge part of our story later on.
Okay, so we've got a name for a specific region, but what about a name for the whole shebang, for the entire subcontinent? And more importantly, what do the people living there call it? Well, let's jump to our next source and see. So now we're moving forward in time, and our next big clue comes from the Mahabharata. You've probably heard of it. It's one of the great Sanskrit epics. And what's cool about it for our investigation is that it gives us this much wider view, almost like a mental map of the entire subcontinent as people saw it back then. And honestly, the geographical knowledge in this epic is just wow. It's impressive. It lays out this huge landmass, describing everything from Kashmir way up in the north, all the way down to Kerala in the south, from Vanga in the east to Saurashtra out west. And here's the really cool part. So many of these ancient names are still totally recognizable today. Kashmira, that's Kashmir, of course. Kurukshetra is in modern Haryana. Vanga is in Bengal. It's like this incredible unbroken thread connecting the past directly to the present day. So, for this whole giant landmass, the Mahabharata uses a specific term, Bharata Varsha. And what does that mean? It means the country of the Bharatas. Now remember them? The Bharatas were a major group of people mentioned way back in our first clue, the Rig Veda. So you see what happened? The name of a people ended up becoming the name of the entire land. And this idea really gets cemented in later texts. The Vishnu Purana, for example, gives this just beautiful, crystal clear definition. It says, the country that lies north of the ocean and south of the snowy mountains is called Bharata. I mean, you really can't get much more specific than that, can you? Okay, so we have Bharat, a name that came from within. But what about India, the name that most of the world uses today? Well, that's where our story takes a big of a turn. To understand that name, we have to see the subcontinent through the eyes of outsiders. This next part is a really fascinating linguistic journey. It all goes back to that river we talked about, Sindhu, right? So the ancient Persians who were to the west had trouble with that initial S sound. So for them, Sindhu became Hindu. And Hindu is just a geographical term. It meant the land on the other side of that river. Okay, then the Greeks enter the picture. Their language didn't really use an H sound, so they dropped it, and Hindu became Indoi. And from Indoi, it's a short hop into Latin, and then English, where it becomes Ind. And you know what? It wasn't just the Persians and the Greeks. The ancient Chinese also traveled to the subcontinent, and they called it Yintu, or Yindu. Can you guess where those names came from? Yep, you got it. They're also just different versions of Sindhu. It's pretty amazing, right? That one single river ended up giving a name to a country for a huge part of the world. So, we're left with these two totally different stories running in parallel. We've got Bharata, the name from the inside, and India, the name from the outside. The big question is, how does a modern country take these two powerful, separate histories and bring them together? Well, when India became an independent nation and it was time to write the Constitution, this was the exact question the founders had to tackle. What do you do? Do you choose the name that's deeply rooted in your own ancient epics? Or do you go with the name that the rest of the world already knows? And the solution they came up with was, well, pretty brilliant. You can find it right there in the very first article of the Constitution of India. They didn't choose one over the other. They chose both. It reads, India, that is Bharat. It's not an either-or situation. It's both, officially and completely equally. It's this really beautiful way of telling two sides of the same incredible story. You have India, the name that connects the nation to the rest of the world, a name that came from outsiders fascinated by that great river. And you have Bharat, the name that connects the nation to its own ancient past, its own epic tradition. And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on, doesn't it? What does it mean for a country to have two names like this? One that reflects how you see yourself, and another that reflects how the world first saw you. What does that dual identity really say about a nation's story? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks.